children who live just down the street. Give us something to spend or something to eat. Let us repeat. Trick or treat. We've walked and walked the livelong day. We've knocked on many doors. Behind each door another face, and now we've come to yours. Trick or treat, trick or treat. We're children who live just down the street. Give us something to spend or something to eat. Let us repeat. Trick or treat. The day is turning into night, and shadows now appear. What once we sang so loud and bold, we mumble now with fear. Trick or treat, trick or treat. We're children who live just down the street. Give us something to spend or something to eat. Let us repeat. Trick or treat.
Welcome, welcome. I've something here for everyone. Here you are. Would you like to come in? Hear some Halloween stories and songs? No. Oh, well. Good luck. A perfect night for Halloween. But the young people out there, they don't know anything about the holiday and how it came about. I could have told them. Halloween, Halloween, when the wildest, weirdest sights are seen. In ancient times, so the tale is told, when the ground grew hard and the air blew cold, the people said, now the year's too old, the new year soon will succeed it. And they shook their heads with awe and fear, for they thought that Judgment Day was near, when those would arise who had died that year, and a final punishment meted. Halloween, Halloween, when the wildest, weirdest sights are seen. Well, every year the pagans said, the pagan god of the pagan dead will make this night a night to dread, and demons will come out to revel. Well, the pagans long have passed away, but each year on the eve of All Saints' Day, we say that the spirits sport and play, and the night belongs to the devil. Halloween, Halloween, when the weirdest, wildest sights are seen. Halloween, Halloween, when the weirdest, wildest sights are seen. Well, that was a long time ago. But there are people even today who still believe that this night the souls of the dead come out of their graves when they're called. Some people believe they come out of their graves even when they're not called. Grumbler was such a thief and a knave, yes, ma'am, a thief and a knave, that everyone laughed when he went to his grave, and they buried him without a haircut or shave.
What?
Yes, sir, a haircut or shave. But soon as the season turned rainy and hot, yes, ma'am, rainy and hot, a funny thing happened, you'll never guess what. There grew a green apple tree over the spot.
What?
Yes, ma'am, over the spot. The apples grew ripe and ready to fall. Yes, ma'am, ready to fall. There came an old lady a-wearing a shawl, which she laid on the grave while she gathered them all.
What?
Yes, sir, gathered them all. Then Grumbler rose up from under the stone. Yes, ma'am, from under the stone. And he said in a voice twixt a shriek and a groan, "Them apples is mine, just you leave them alone."
What?
Yes, sir, leave them alone. So if it's the taste of an apple you crave, yes, ma'am, an apple you crave, and if you're a fool or remarkably brave, there's a shawlful just waiting on Grumbler's grave.
What?
Yes, sir, on Grumbler's grave. Yes, ma'am, on Grumbler's grave. Apples have always been a part of Halloween. Bobbing for them, or peeling them, then throwing the peels down in front of the fireplace, and some people say they form out the initials of your own true love. I guess it's the way you peel them. But there was one fellow who knew his own true love without apple peels, even when he became a ghost. There was a bold fisherman who sailed out from Rustico to slay the wild codfish and the bold mackerel. But when he got off Rustico, the stormy winds did wildly blow. His little boat went wibble-wobble and overboard went he. But he sang, Twinkie-doodle-lum, Twinkie-doodle-lum, 'twas a highly interesting song he sung. Twinkie-doodle-lum, Twinkie-doodle-lum, sang the bold fisherman. He wriggled, he scriggled in the water so briny-o. He yellowed, he bellowed for help, but in vain. So swiftly did he slowly glide to the bottom of the ocean tide. But previously to this he cried, Fare thee well, Mary Jane. And he sang, Twinkie-doodle-lum, Twinkie-doodle-lum, 'twas a highly interesting song he sung. Twinkie-doodle-lum, Twinkie-doodle-lum, sang the bold fisherman. His ghost walked at midnight to the side of his Mary Jane. He told her how dead he was, it made her right mad. She said, if my love has gone from me to the bottom of the briny sea, no joy on earth can ever be, and she went stark, staring, sad. But she sang, and he sang, and you sing. Twinkie-doodle-lum, Twinkie-doodle-lum, 'twas a highly interesting song he sang. Twinkie-doodle-lum, Twinkie-doodle-lum, sang the bold fisherman. It's funny, some people don't even know what the word Halloween means. It's Hallow-een. See, that's the evening before All Hallows or All Saints' Day. In some places in England and in America, it's still called Nutcrack Night. You see, if you and your love put nutshells in front of the fire, you'll be able to tell the course of your future romance by the way the nuts burn, whether they burn evenly or just shrivel up, as happened in this famous romance. In a canyon, in a cavern, excavating for a mine, lived a miner, 49er, and his daughter Clementine. Oh, my darling, oh, my darling, oh, my darling Clementine, you are lost and gone forever, dreadful sorry Clementine. Light she was and like a fairy, her shoes were number 9, herring boxes without topses, sandals were for Clementine. Oh, my darling, oh, my darling, oh, my darling Clementine, you are lost and gone forever, dreadful sorry Clementine. Drove she ducklings to the water every morning just at 9, stubbed her foot upon a pebble, fell into the foaming brine. Oh, my darling, oh, my darling, oh, my darling Clementine, you are lost and gone forever, dreadful sorry Clementine. Ruby lips above the water, blowing bubbles soft and fine. Alas for me, I was no swimmer, so I lost my Clementine. Oh, my darling, oh, my darling, oh, my darling Clementine, you are lost and gone forever, dreadful sorry Clementine. Now in dreams she comes to haunt me, dressed in garments soaked in brine. Though in life I used to hug her, now she's dead, I draw the line. Oh, my darling, oh, my darling, oh, my darling Clementine, you are lost and gone forever, dreadful sorry Clementine. Ah, here you are. There's some for everyone. And would you like to hear any songs or stories about Halloween? Oh, well, have a good night. I could have told them about the different kinds of ghosts that people see during this season. Volcano ghosts like Pele of Hawaii, or Japanese spirits of the wind and the rain, and one strange ghost of a gray horse who lived and died long ago in England. Tam Pierce, lend me your gray mare, all along, down, along, out, along Lee, for us wants to go to Whittingham Fair, with Bill Brewer, Jan Stewart, Peter Gantry, Peter Gurney, Daniel Whitten, Arioch, old Uncle Tom Cobley and all, old Uncle Tom Cobley and all. Well, when will I see again my gray mare? All along, down along, out along Lee, by Friday noon or Saturday zoon, with Bill Brewer, Jan Stewart, Peter Gantry, Peter Gurney, Daniel Whitten, Ariok, old Uncle Tom Cobley and all, old Uncle Tom Cobley and all. Well, Friday came and Saturday zoon, all along, down along, out along Lee, but Tam's old grey mare, she ne'er did come home, with Bill Brewer, Jan Stewart, Peter Gantry, Peter Gurney, Daniel Whitten, Ariok, old Uncle Tom Cobley and all, old Uncle Tom Cobley and all. So Tam he made way to the top of the hill, all along, down along, out along Lee, and he saw his grey mare a-making her will, with Bill Brewer, Jan Stewart, Peter Gantry, Peter Gurney, Daniel Whitten, Ariok, old Uncle Tom Cobley and all, old Uncle Tom Cobley and all. When the wind blows clear on the moor at night, all along, down along, out along Lee, Tam Pierce's grey mare doth appear ghastly white, with Bill Brewer, Jan Stewart, Peter Gantry, Peter Gurney, Daniel Whitten, Ariok, old Uncle Tom Cobley and all, old Uncle Tom Cobley and all. And all night long be heard moaning and groans, all along, down along, out along Lee, from Tam Pierce's grey mare and her rattling bones. And Bill Brewer, Jan Stewart, Peter Gantry, Peter Gurney, Daniel Whitten, Ariok, old Uncle Tom Cobley and all, old Uncle Tom Cobley and all. And there were not only ghosts of horses. Why, when I was in Germany, they used to speak of the ghosts of flying fish. And in India, there are ghosts of trees and of bushes. And they're all good for something. But in America, there's one useless ghost that always annoys the neighborhood. You see, in a small town or on a small farm, there's no room for waste. Everything has to be useful. Now how do you think I begin in the world? I bought me a sow and several other things, but my sow took the measles and she died in the spring. And what do you think I made of her hide? The very best saddle that you ever did ride. Saddle or bridle or any such thing. My sow took the measles and she died in the spring. And what do you think I made of her tail? The very best whip that ever set sail. Whip or whiffletree or any such thing. My sow took the measles and she died in the spring. What do you think I made of her ear? The best silk purse that you ever did wear. Purse or pocketbook or any such thing. My sow took the measles and she died in the spring. Now what do you think I made of her ghost? The thing that everyone feared the most. I couldn't do nothing with the blamed old thing, but my sow took the measles and she died in the spring. When my sow took the measles and she died in the spring. The American Indians believe in all sorts of ghosts, and they perform all sorts of ghost dances. In Italy, the people set a table for ghosts full of food and drink, and then they go away. And when they come back, the plates are clean and the glasses are empty. But let me tell you about the strangest ghost that ever lived, or should I say, the strangest ghost that never lived. Come listen to me closely while I rehearse a ditty. It's all about a fine young girl that lived in New York City. She fell in love with a handsome lad, nearly 10 foot in his prime. He was chief engineer of an overcoat farm, and his name was Captain O'Ryan. He was chief engineer of an overcoat farm, and his name was Captain O'Ryan. This fine young girl was named Mary McGee. She was loved both near and far. Ran a peanut stand in Herald Square for the folks in the trolley car. But when her mother met Captain O'Ryan and he asked for Mary's hand, she replied, "If my daughter keeps company with you, I will bust up the peanut stand." She replied, "If my daughter keeps company with you, I will bust up the peanut stand." Well, Mary McGee, she took it hard. She swore she'd rather be dead. And one night cried up an ocean of tears and drowned right there in her bed. And the news took effect on Captain O'Ryan, and he just couldn't bear the loss. So he jumped in a bowl of vegetable soup, and he ended up as a sauce. So he jumped in a bowl of vegetable soup, and he ended up as a sauce. The old woman's house is haunted now, every night about 12 o'clock. The kind of a haunt that would scare the dead and give a goblin a shock. For not only are Mary and Captain right there a-walking hand in hand, but right behind them a-floating in the air is the ghost of the peanut stand. But right behind them a-floating in the air is the ghost of the peanut stand. 1 second, 1 second. What a fine lot of costumes. Very nice. Here you are. Here's something for everyone. You wouldn't care to hear some stories of strange visitors on Halloween, would you? No. You would? Well, come on in. Come on in. Come on, everybody, come on in. I'll tell you about witches and demons. I'll tell you about devils and strange creatures never before imagined. Now, come on in, everybody, come on in.
Trick or treat, trick or treat. We're children who live just down the street. Give us something to spend or something to eat. Let us repeat. Trick or treat. We've walked and walked the livelong day. We've knocked on many doors. Behind each door another face. And now we've come to yours. Trick or treat, trick or treat. We're children who live just down the street. Give us something to spend or something to eat. Let us repeat. Trick or treat. The day is turning into night, and shadows now appear. What once we sang so loud and bold, we mumble now with fear. Trick or treat, trick or treat. We're children who live just down the street. Give us something to spend or something to eat. Let us repeat. Trick or treat.
Well, it's nice to have an audience, and such a remarkable audience. As a demon, and you're a goblin, and you're a leprechaun, and you're a mermaid, and a witch, and a warlock. Well, let me tell you about a real witch, and a real warlock, and a real battle. There was a wise young woman whose hand it was a prize. A blacksmith came to woo her, a wizard in disguise. No use, no use, no use, she cried. This I swear is true. I wouldn't marry a husty, dusty, musty, rusty, crusty smith like you. Then she became a snow white dove a-flying through the air. But he became an eagle, and he fetched her to his lair. No use, no use, no use, she cried. This I swear is true. I wouldn't marry a husty, dusty, musty, rusty, crusty smith like you. Then she became a rabbit, and she coursed across the plain. And he became a hunting hound, and he fetched her back again. No use, no use, no use, she cried. This I swear is true. I wouldn't marry a husty, dusty, musty, rusty, crusty smith like you. Then she became a whalefish upon the ocean floor. But he became a whaling man, and he fetched her back once more. No use, no use, no use, she cried. This I swear is true. I wouldn't marry a husty, dusty, musty, rusty, crusty smith like you. Then she became a princess, all regal in her pride. But he became a handsome prince, and he said, please be my bride. Some use, some use, some use, she cried. This I swear is true. I wouldn't marry a husty, dusty, musty, rusty, crusty smith, but I will marry you. Do you know how you can tell who is a witch and who isn't? Well, witches can only cry 3 tears. And if they happen to pass a broom, they have to stop and count every single straw. And one other thing, no witch has ever been seen eating, except on one occasion when exceptionally provoked. There was a man lived in the moon, lived in the moon, lived in the moon. There was a man lived in the moon, and his name was Aiken Drum. And he played upon a ladle, a ladle, a ladle. Played upon a ladle, and his name was Aiken Drum. His hat was made of cream cheese, of cream cheese, of cream cheese. His hat was made of cream cheese, and his name was Aiken Drum. And he played upon a ladle, a ladle, a ladle. Played upon a ladle, and his name was Aiken Drum. And his coat was made of roast beef, of roast beef, of roast beef. His coat was made of roast beef, and his name was Aiken Drum. And he played upon a ladle, a ladle, a ladle. Played upon a ladle, and his name was Aiken Drum. And his boots were made of candy canes, of candy canes, of candy canes. His boots were made of candy canes, and his name was Aiken Drum. And he played upon a ladle, a ladle, a ladle. Played upon a ladle, and his name was Aiken Drum. Then along came a hungry witch, a hungry witch, a hungry witch. Along came a hungry witch. She ate up Aiken Drum, and she ate up all the roast beef, the cream cheese, the candy canes. She even ate the ladle. 'Twas the end of Aiken Drum. But he played upon a ladle, a ladle, a ladle. Played upon a ladle, and his name was Aiken Drum. I've heard it said that in Ireland, one is supposed to throw a shoe over one's cottage this time of the year. And if it lands pointing away, that means the owner of the shoe will be setting off for a journey. Perhaps he'll even meet a leprechaun on the way. That's right, a leprechaun, just like you over there. They say leprechauns were once taller than normal human beings, but they were shrunk down by the sound of church bells, just like you. And they say that their king is named Tam O'Lynn. Tam O'Lynn was the leprechaun's king. He loved one thing more than any other thing. He loved playing tricks on his human kin. We can't all be fairies, says Tam O'Lynn. Tam O'Lynn, Tam O'Lynn, Tam O'Lynn, hi-ho. He soured the milk, he skimmed the cream, he made the porridge go up in steam. He turned their wedding rings into tin. It's a quick divorce, says Tam O'Lynn. Tam O'Lynn, Tam O'Lynn, Tam O'Lynn, hi-ho. He hid the pieces of the little girl's game. He saw that her brother got all the blame. Trouble came down wherever he'd been. I'm a great little joker, says Tam O'Lynn. Tam O'Lynn, Tam O'Lynn, Tam O'Lynn, hi-ho. He sent the horses in wild stampede. He sent the crows to eat the seed. He turned their clothing all outside in. It'll be a new fashion, says Tam O'Lynn. Tam O'Lynn, Tam O'Lynn, Tam O'Lynn, hi-ho. He saved his gold for 1,000 years in a silver pot with 2 brass ears. He hid it down where the rainbows begin. They'll never look here, says Tam O'Lynn. Tam O'Lynn, Tam O'Lynn, Tam O'Lynn, hi-ho. But along came a girl, she wasn't very old. She stumbled across Tam's pot of gold. She spent every penny with a big wide grin. Well, it's easy come, easy go, says Tam O'Lynn. Tam O'Lynn, Tam O'Lynn, Tam O'Lynn, hi-ho, hi-ho. You over there by the fireplace that's dressed up like a black cat. That's right. Did you know that a cat thrown into the sea is the cause of hurricanes? And did you know if you happen to meet with a mermaid, it's certain to cause a disaster? Unless, of course, the mermaid happens to be a relative. My dad was the keeper of the Folkestone Light. He married a mermaid one dark night. Result of the marriage was children 3. 2 of them was herrings, the other was me. Jolly stories, jolly told, when the waves roll high and the wind blows cold. One Halloween I was trimming up the light when I heard a sound in the stormy night. A voice from the darkness shouted, "Hail!" And there was my mother a-waving her tail. Jolly stories, jolly told, when the waves roll high and the wind blows cold. What has become of my children too? My mother asked, as mothers do. Well, one was exhibited as a talking fish, the other was served as a seafood dish. Jolly stories, jolly told, when the waves roll high and the wind blows cold. Then she shook her head and she flipped her tail. She hopped on the back of a passing whale. But her voice could be heard, though she couldn't be seen. Remember your mother on Halloween. Jolly stories, jolly told, when the waves roll high and the wind blows cold. This is a night for meeting strange creatures, like you over there in the devil's uniform. It's a very good uniform. You know, sometimes on Halloween, one meets the devil himself, and then there's trouble. For instance, the devil may ask you a riddle, and if you don't know the answer, oh, the consequences are frightening. 'Twas the devil himself, or so they do say. Parsley, sage, rosemary, and thyme. And he stoppeth a maiden on the king's highway, saying, "You shall be a true servant of mine. If you cannot answer my questions for parsley, sage, rosemary, and thyme, then you shall be cursed forevermore, and you shall be a true servant of mine." "Ask and thou wilt," the maiden replied, "parsley, sage, rosemary, and thyme. But ne'er shall I stand at the devil's own side, nor will I be a true servant of thine." Then what is louder than the horn? Parsley, sage, rosemary, and thyme. And what is brighter than the morn? You shall be a true servant of mine. Thunder is louder than the horn. Parsley, sage, rosemary, and thyme. And lightning is brighter than the morn, nor will I be a true servant of thine. Then what is smaller than a seed? Parsley, sage, rosemary, and thyme. And what is swifter than a steed? You shall be a true servant of mine. A lost soul is smaller than the seed. Parsley, sage, rosemary, and thyme. And God's justice is swifter than a steed, nor will I be a true servant of thine. Well, you have answered my questions for parsley, sage, rosemary, and thyme. And you shall see me never no more, nor will you be a true servant of mine, nor will you be a true servant of mine. Hey, you know, your costume is the best devil's costume I ever saw. If they ever caught a glimpse of you in Europe, they'd light 100 bonfires just to ward you off. And in Romania and Hungary, they tie sprigs of garlic around their necks to keep you away. It usually keeps everyone away, in fact. But possibly the best defense against the evil one is to be just a little bit more evil. There was an old farmer, he lived up on a hill, and he married a woman with a very strong will, singing ho, ho, a diddle-dum-do, a diddle-I, diddle-dum-do. But the devil come up to that farmer one day, saying, "There's one in your family I'm a-taking away. Ho, ho, a-diddle-dum-do, a-diddle-I-diddle-dum-do." And just like a peddler, a-toting his pack, he slung the old lady right up on his back, singing, "Ho, ho, a-diddle-dum-do, a-diddle-I-diddle-dum-do." He hadn't got more than half down the road when he said to her, "Madam, you're a devil of a load," singing, "Ho, ho, a-diddle-dum-do, a-diddle-I-diddle-dum-do." Well, he finally dragged her inside of his gate, saying, "Take a look, boys, I've brought a new mate. Ho, ho, a-diddle-dum-do, a-diddle-I-diddle-dum-do." So 5 little devils come dragging some change. She reached with a foot, she kicked in all their brains, singing, "Ho, ho, a-diddle-dum-do, a-diddle-I-diddle-dum-do." 6 little devils were sleeping in the beds. She reached with a poker, knocked in all their heads, singing, "Ho, ho, a-diddle-dum-do, a-diddle-I-diddle-dum-do." Well, 7 little devils jumped over the wall, saying, "Take her back, Daddy, she'll murder us all," singing, "Ho, ho, a-diddle-dum-do, a-diddle-I-diddle-dum-do." Well, the farmer was a-peeking out through the crack, and there was the devil a-dragging her back, singing, "Ho, ho, a-diddle-dum-do, a-diddle-I-diddle-dum-do. Here's your wife alive and well. If I kept you down there, it'd really been awful," singing, "Ho, ho, a-diddle-dum-do, a-diddle-I-diddle-dum-do." She was 7 years going and 7 years back, and she asked for the roast that she'd left on the rack, singing, "Ho, ho, a-diddle-dum-do, a-diddle-I-diddle-dum-do. Ho, ho, I diddled 'em though, didn't I diddle 'em though?" You over there by the window, you're dressed up like a jack-o'-lantern. Do you know what you're really supposed to be doing? Well, in the old days, people used to put candles inside human skulls to frighten away the goblins. Of course, nowadays, pumpkin heads do just as well. Jack, Jack, sitting on a crack, cut off the top like an old smokestack, big wide grin carved right in, ready for Halloween. Pumpkin grew on a pumpkin vine, fat and a full and a fielding fine. Along come a farmer and he set him by, saying, "You're gonna make fine pumpkin pie." Jack, Jack, sitting on a crack, cut off the top like an old smokestack, big wide grin carved right in, ready for Halloween. Cut off the top, scrape out the meat, best darn pie as you ever did eat. Carve out a grin, put in a light, shine like a haunt in the pale moonlight. Jack, Jack, sitting on a crack, cut off the top like an old smokestack, big wide grin, carved right in, ready for Halloween. Night time's past and the morn's aglow, jack-o'-the-lanterns a flickering low. Lanterns out, smile goes black, hello sunshine, goodbye Jack. Jack, Jack, sitting on a crack, cut off the top like an old smokestack, big wide grin, carved right in, ready for Halloween. Again, Jack, Jack, sitting on a crack, cut off the top like an old smokestack, big wide grin, carved right in, ready for Halloween. You know, I've got to admit that your costumes are the most convincing I've ever seen. You goblins and demons over there in the sofa, you look like the real thing. I'll tell you something. Even if you were the real thing, I wouldn't be frightened. No, sir. I've never been frightened by things I see. Only by things in my imagination. I'm not afraid of the jungle beasts, however wild they be. Just let a lion show his teeth, he doesn't frighten me. I'll handle any crocodile in an underwater fight. But I'm afraid of the dark at the head of the stairs and the things that go bump in the night. I'm afraid of the dark at the head of the stairs and the things that go bump in the night. I'll battle any boxing champ, If Samson hits me with a left, I'll tell him, try your right. But I'm afraid of the dark at the head of the stairs and the things that go bump in the night. I'm afraid of the dark at the head of the stairs and the things that go bump in the night. The daily things I see and hear don't bother me in the least. I'll take whatever comes my way, I fear not man nor beast. But the trouble starts when the night gets dark and someone turns off the light. Then I'm afraid of the dark at the head of the stairs, things that go bump in the night. I'm afraid of the dark at the head of the stairs, and the things that go bump in the night. One other thing. Did you know that anyone born on Halloween can talk with the spirits? Yeah. Was anyone here born on Halloween? All of you? Yeah, very cute. Happy birthday. Listen, why did you all come back again? Come back again next year. 'Cause it's so nice having someone to talk to. Bye-bye. Hey! Well, that was strange. They didn't use the door at all. Some of them darted up the chimney. Some of them flew out the windows, and some just disappeared. And so fast, except for the witch, she was counting the straws on the broomstick. That's strange. Well, I guess many strange things come out on Halloween.
Trick or treat, we're children who live just down the street. Give us something to spend or something to eat. Let us repeat. Trick or treat. We've walked and walked the livelong day. We've knocked on many doors. Behind each door another face, and now we've come to yours. Trick or treat, trick or treat, we're children who live just down the street. Give us something to spend or something to eat. Let us repeat. Trick or treat. The day is turning into night, and shadows now appear. What once we sang so loud and bold, we mumble now with fear. Trick or treat, trick or treat, we're children who live just down the street. Give us something to spend or something to eat. Let us repeat. Trick or treat.